Right, live.
Hey Reese, how you doing?
Hi, Sean. Not bad. How you doing?
Good, good. It's a beautiful
Brilliant.
day
Thanks for coming.
outside, and yeah,
Oh, sorry.
thanks
Yeah,
for
before
having
the
us.
outside. Yeah, no. Thank you for coming on. Of course. Where you based?
Well, I'm in New Jersey, so
Okay.
that's where I'm at right now. We have our corporation is in Wyoming, right? So yep, but I'm physically in New Jersey.
Trying to pinpoint those on the map, but yeah, my American
Wyoming's
geography
way on the
isn't
other side
amazing.
of
I
the
know
country.
New Jersey's like New York, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wyoming
And then
is I mean, it's the middle of nowhere, three-quarters of the way, the other way across the country.
sounds all right though. Middle of nowhere. I
Yeah.
like. I sort of like that. But yeah, we got
They have really good regulations for what we're doing. So
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
right. Okay, yeah. So well, that's actually a way of sort of populating these sort of remote places by giving some crypto-friendly regulations and get all the
Yeah,
crypto
seems like
people
it.
out there. I think that's
Yeah.
a way to boost all that. Anyway, thanks for coming on. You're here for Home
Absolutely.
Free, right? And you'll be talking us a little bit through the project for anyone who may not know, or people who do know and have some interesting questions. And before we kick off, I always forget, but we're running a $100 giveaway for 4 people. That's $25 for 4 people for best questions. So if there's anyone around, then drop some questions here in your community chat or in my community chat, anywhere in the three places, and we'll keep an eye open and choose the best questions, and they can get a little reward to put into home free or leaving home free. Cool.
Well, hey, before we get started, I want to say we love your videos and thank you for the
Oh,
videos you've made for us. They've been top notch. Every time one comes out, I'm super excited to see it. So
thanks.
we're
Yeah, I
happy to be
try. I
here.
try.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, you
I
do
try
well.
to, just try to help people understand uh, where
You
they
do a good
could
job. You
or
lay it out very well. Yeah, yeah.
thanks. Yeah, yeah, I try. It's been a journey as well. I see my first videos, I was like, oh my god, it's like super cringing. But yeah, no, it's what I try. Try to help people out, and yeah, that's the way I do it. So yeah,
Well, we need more
so
people like you in this space, right?
yeah,
To
yeah, it'd be nice. Anyway, so I've got a list of questions, and I think they're pretty cool. They give us a nice idea of home free and your token, HTS, and also get into some more technical things which people might be interested in too. So, though, kicking off, what would be, or how would you pitch home free to someone who doesn't know about it?
Well, I would say Home3 is so buying a home is getting increasingly harder for the average person to do, right? Investing in real estate is not something that the average, especially younger generations, can do very easily. And what we're doing is we're fractionalizing, tokenizing, and democratizing the whole process to allow accessibility for a lot more people. So we're solving real world problems with real world assets. So everybody knows real world assets is really a crypto it's a blockchain term for the most part. But we're doing, solving real world problems with that. So we're utilizing blockchain to solve problems that exist in the real world for real people, real families, not just, crypto investors, not just people with money. We want to help real, everyday people that don't even know about crypto to get in and to be able to fulfill their dreams and their goals, and that's what we're
Yeah,
here for. So
yeah, well, like I'm not sure if it's a right in the US, but I know it's a right here in Spain at least. It's a right to have a house. So it's making that right more accessible.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And
And we're going to be worldwide as well. We're based in the US right now, but the plan is global expansion into as many markets as will have us.
of course,
So
that's it.
yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah. So even though you did just touch on the problem, um, could you dive a little bit deeper into the problem that you are actually solving um, and why you decided to do it like through HOME3.
So I've been in and out of the real estate, either in and out of real estate myself, both professionally and as a consumer. And from the beginning, even as a younger guy in the market, as a as an investor, as a speculator, and also I was in mortgages. I noticed that there's a ton of inefficiencies. There's a lot of fees, and even when somebody believes that they're at the point where they can afford a home, there's often a lot of barriers to that. And so, what we're doing is we're making real estate investing easier for everyone and accessible for everyone. But really, where my heart lies is for people to be able to afford a home, to be able to raise their family in a nice place that is safe. It's their space. And so that's near and dear to my heart because I mean I've always loved real estate, but also it's just I see that this is a big problem. Housing is a big problem. It's increasingly more and more expensive. It's
Yeah.
increasingly, for better or for worse, you get more regulations that actually make things harder for regular people to get in. So it's like they do the regulations to protect people, but then at the same time they also stifle their ability to do it. So it's this constant balancing act. And when I realized blockchain's power, I really believe that blockchain, whether they knew it or not, was really designed for this specific purpose. Was really designed uh, to to decentralize assets, to allow some more the market to dictate more of the abilities, as opposed to everything being centralized and controlled by bureaucrats and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
believe that there is a level of freeness you have to have in a market to allow accessibility, but there's also some protections. You need protections, of course, but I feel like blockchain is the way to fix a lot of those problems, to allow people to make purchases in real estate who say, I don't generally need, these special protections. I'm not a first time home buyer. I understand real estate. I just want to invest. We want to be able to offer that. But if you're a first time home buyer, we also want to be able to offer options for you to afford your home, to get into a home that maybe is hard for you to get into right now. Because we all know mortgages are, a lot of regions, home buyers are priced out of the market because they can't save enough money for the down payment, or they can't get financed enough for a home that's acceptable. And oftentimes one of the biggest problems is some people will be paying $3,000 a month for rent, and then they go to apply for a mortgage and they can't get approved for a $2,000 a month mortgage even though they've been paying
Okay.
that rent. So when you have it on blockchain, when you have all of this available and accessible information, lenders can now look and say, oh, they've been paying this rent. Look on I can see the record here. And it can also streamline the process. So there is so many problems, and I'm a problem solver by nature. That's been a thing I love to do. So real estate
Nice.
just poses so many problems to be fixed. And I just feel like a kid in a candy store, right? Because every time something comes up, I'm like, oh, I have an idea for that too. So that's what we're doing. And that's why we're doing it, because I feel like one of the biggest threats to society is what's the term I'm looking for, is like being unsure of your home.
Yeah.
There's a term for that, but
Okay.
and I feel like that's a big problem to solve. So that's what we've taken on, and that's what we're doing at Home 3. And that's why we're
Brilliant.
not pushing a lot of hype. We're not pushing a lot. We're just working. We're just doing it. We're gonna solve these problems. And it may be, slow, it may be fast, but we're gonna solve these problems, and that's the aim, right?
Brilliant. Yeah,
So
no, that's sort of in a way where I make videos and projects like you guys because I know that you're onto something real and it might be long term, but that's why a message I'd like to push across as well to my audience. And yeah. So sort of just touching into the real estate sort of situation in the US because I'm curious about it because I know what things like over here in Spain. Um, I know. Well, I know that over here the banks would normally give an 80% of the total value of the of the house, which is a lot. Of course, there's a lot of money, but still, it means people have to save up a lot of money. And
Hmm.
I know that jobs aren't as well paying over here in Europe as they are in the USA. So for a young person, who's like 20, early 20s, saving up like, I don't know, maybe 40, 50, 60,000 euros or pounds, maybe more 100,000 is hard.
Yeah,
But what's it like over in the US? Are the banks giving out about 80% as well? Is it
it's
a little bit less, a
similar.
bit more?
No, so we have federally backed mortgages here as well that you can
Okay.
go up to 97%. Um, Sometimes it's not always the case. First time home buyers have special programs that the government gives you, but they also come with stipulations.
Yeah.
But the market's kind of running away from that. So, even 3% on many homes in the US is still going to be, 15, 20,000 US,
Yeah.
plus closing costs. So it's still a significant chunk of change when, you know, such a big portion of the average citizen is paycheck to paycheck. It's hard to save,
Okay.
especially with inflation and just everything's getting pinched. Insurance is constantly going up, whether it's, health insurance, car insurance, it's all constantly raising. Food prices have been going up. They're
True.
stabilizing, but they've been going up. Everything is just getting more expensive.
Yeah.
They say, I think it's something like the dollar is 3 cents of what it originally was. So it's got
Wow.
3 cents buying power. So if think it was so if you had a dollar in the 20s or the 30s, it's worth about 3 cents now, for that same dollar. So
Wow.
that's crazy. So it's kind of built into the
Yes.
system. When they talk about inflation and say,
Yeah.
well, we need a certain amount of inflation. That means that every year, no matter what, your dollar gets less buying power. That's worldwide. It's just the fiat system, right? Uh, so
Yeah.
uh, so what we're looking to do here is we're looking to help people in that same situation. Like they pay their bills, they're solid people. It's just saving money when you're trying to say raise a family or anything. It's a tough ask. And
It is.
so, especially because rents are oftentimes more than mortgages, so like I said, they might be paying $3,000 a month for an apartment. If they were to buy a house that was $2,000 a month, or $2,500 a month, they're saving $500 a month they can put in their pocket or in their savings, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So we're looking for solutions with blockchain to say, yeah, we see that, that you could actually afford this home, but you can't get a mortgage. So what we can do is we can use blockchain. We can crowd fund it. We can use a different sort of lending from blockchain sources, DeFi, stuff like that. And we would be presenting these options, just like any other mortgage company would. When you get a mortgage, do you know where the money comes from? You just know you fill out an application and they say you're approved and then they go, here's your money, right?
Yeah.
You don't know any of the background processes. So the way I look at it, the way we look at it is, why do they need to know those processes if we're using blockchain versus fiat, hit a button on a keyboard and create money from the Fed kind of situation, right? It doesn't make a difference, right? So
Right.
we're solving problems with that mindset of we're gonna help you in right now it's the US, but in all countries, where we're gonna look at the system and say, okay, here's what's going on there. How can we address this? And blockchain is so often such a good solution because it gives you so many options. you know for instance, in a situation in Spain where you need 80, you can get an 80% loan, you got to come up with 20%. Let's say that's a $500,000 home. Uh so that's $100,000 that you have to save up. I don't know who's saving that money up in any acceptable period of time. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe 10 years for a lot of people, maybe 15 or 20. So that's years of ownership. They could have been building equity in a home. So by crowdfunding and sharing ownership in that property, by utilizing blockchain, we can get them into the property conceivably immediately, even if they've only saved up a little bit of money, because we can make up the difference, still get them the loan, and then it's just the holders benefit from that portion that they crowdfunded, or it becomes, a second. In the US, oftentimes what they do is what's called an 80-20 or an 80-15 type of loan, where they'll give an initial 80% loan for the
Okay.
property, and then if you don't have 20% down payment, you take a second mortgage, which is
Yeah.
10 or 15 or 20%. Used to be, back in 2008, it'd be an 80-20, it'd be 100%, so you wouldn't need any money to put down. But that resulted in a lot of people being upside down on properties when the property values dropped, and then they feel like, well, I'm never going to get that value back. So
Yeah.
so we're addressing those type of problems too, where we don't, by making real estate fluid, it allows you to get in and out a lot faster than a traditional market would, right? So you can save your losses, and there's ways to, a new investor can buy at a discount, but you didn't take the full amount of a loss, right? Because you couldn't sell it because the market was bad, or you couldn't refinance it because the value wasn't there, and things like that, right? Anyway, I think I
Yeah.
went beyond your question, but yeah, in
Oh
the
no, it's
US,
fine.
you can get close to 100%, but it's rare. 97% is a government-backed thing. Typically, 5 to 10% is required, at least for most, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
transactions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
But
actually, I
that's
got
not.
100% on my house, so I'm,
You
I'm
did.
alright. But
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
yeah,
I mean,
because
hey,
I use my parents' house as like the guarantor or whatever. So
yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
but
you
the
can
bank
do
didn't
that.
like it. They were like, are you sure I accepted this?" I'm like, "Yeah, you said yeah."
Yeah. Well, that brings, also crypto assets into play too, right? That's something that's just getting a little bit of talk about, is crypto backed loans. And I think was it JP Morgan recently that announced they're gonna give
Okay,
crypto backed loans too now. So now crypto can become a source of your equity in properties, because they can lock up the crypto and say, okay, well, you can. So if you don't have a property to do that, you can use blockchain, but also,
yeah, yeah,
uh,
because that works in a way that, for example, I have like let's say one Bitcoin, and I need 107 or whatever it is $1,000 loan, and they give me 107,000 loan, and once I pay it off, they return me my Bitcoin at whatever
yeah,
price it is at whenever
yeah.
I paid it off, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's why blockchain offers us a lot of options. And blockchain also, one thing blockchain is great for is crowdfunding. I mean, it's incredible the amount of money that is, or the amount of value that's floating around in the blockchain, and it's a lot more easily attained than traditional markets. So another thing we believe is that with blockchain, because the capital is a lot more, it's a lot easier to obtain, and people are more easily will get into. I mean, let's face it, real estate is essentially like a zero risk investment for the average degen crypto trader, right?
Yeah.
So the way we look at it is, hey, we're like a super safe side of blockchain. You can get all your gains and come over to us, and put it in a safe place, and have it back, in real estate, lent against real estate, whatever. The chances of you losing that is a very minute percentage compared to
Compared to, yeah,
your
like the
average
other.
token. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
Cool.
back to the example. So let's say we were
Yeah.
a $500,000 home, and you need $100,000 uh down payment, right? Or let's say that you couldn't get approved for that loan, right? You can't, maybe you don't make enough to get a 500, a $400,000 loan, and you can only get approved for 300, but the home is 500,000. We're able, with blockchain, we're able to break that up into fragments, and allow essentially a second owner on the property, which could consist of 100 people or 1,000 people. So you're able to really chop up these properties, and then, like I said, those are liquid assets, versus what real estate really is very illiquid for the most part. Either the typical person owns a home. If they want to get money out of their equity, they have to get a loan for it, they have to sell it, You can find investors. That's harder to do
Yeah.
in traditional finance because you're usually looking for one person or two people to do that. In blockchain, we could, at the snap of a finger, get 500 people that'll throw a few $100s on it or $1,000.
Yeah.
So it makes things a lot easier.
And how would that work? So if I went ahead and I got 300k, I have 100. I will have 100. So the house is 500,000. I have 100,000. I get 300,000, and the other 100,000, you guys get for me. How would that work then? So would I pay them off? Are they like holders forever?
So essentially, well, so one of the great things about blockchain and it being liquid is that you don't really ever need to, if say for instance, we have $100,000 of that, you would never really need to buy anyone out, nor would you ever need to sell the home because those people, those investors that own that $100,000 portion of your property, they could freely trade their shares, even to you. You could buy those shares, but you don't have to buy the whole 100,000. One of the issues that, and this is called an equity buy. This is one of the things that we're going to be employing quite a bit, I think. And this does exist. So in the U.S., if you wanted to refinance your home, let's say it was worth 500,000, you had 200,000 in equity and you wanted 100,000 to take out to just make improvements on your home or whatever the case is. So we use that to we say, okay, we have $100,000 block on this home as an equity buy. In the U.S., typically how it works is just a group of investors. They put up the $100,000, and you have an end date. It's either 10, some are going to 20 or 30 years now, but the price for that increases, right? Because it's a lot longer before they can see the value of their investment. And they can't trade it. They can't freely trade those. So they're kind of stuck in there unless they find a buyer to buy them out. By employing the same thing on blockchain, you might have, let's say, 500 people that put a little bit of money in. They put a share. You have 500 people, some varying amounts. Some put 10,000 in, some put 100, some put 500, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Um, let's say that the value of that home increases, it doubles in value over 5 years. They can say, oh, well, my thousand's 2,000 now. I can sell that. Somebody else can buy that for 2,000, right? Or maybe a little
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
1900, 1800, whatever the case is, that could be freely traded. So that never forces the owner to ever have to buy that equity back. And since it can be freely traded, it also means that the house never needs to be sold. Right. So that's one problem that we realized, because if you think about it, with a typical equity buy at 10 years or 30 years, the way the real estate market generally appreciates about 7% per year, right? In the
Yeah.
US anyway. So, of course you get your crashes and your hype runs, but generally it's just like, 7%. So let's say after 10 years is compounded 7% on top of 7%, you're getting somewhere in the range of 90%. Now when you go to buy out that equity buy, if you like you're hitting your 30-year mark, that 100,000 that you took out in cash now is $200,000 that you have to pay back to keep your home. So that can become a big
Mm,
problem where it becomes this, it's not
yeah.
really a debt per se, but the only way out if you don't pay it back is to sell your home. That's not a problem on the blockchain because those investors can sell anytime during that 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't have to put an end date. It can be perpetual. And so when I saw that, and I realized that, that was a big time light bulb that went off in my head, on top of everything else that we were already planning on doing. But that was like, hey, we could actually solve problems here with that. And then also we're approaching the developer side too, is another, we're going to be working on developer stuff too, but that's
Brilliant.
another conversation. But essentially, if you wanted to take money out of the house or get a house that was a little bit too much for what you qualify for or able to get at that point, we could step in and do that, and you would still have the equity on that 400,000. So if the home doubles in value, your 400,000 now became 800,000. Our 100,000 became 200, right? So you're still
Mm,
getting the lion's share. You get the property. You still get to live there. You still, it's still your home by all intents and purposes, right?
yeah. 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 Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. And what if I decide to sell after like 5 years?
Yeah, that's fine. It's the same as any other sale. You would sell it for, let's say, five. If let's say it didn't change in value, you'd sell it for $500,000. We'd get our 100,000 back for our investors, and that would just be a break even. There is
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
there's some fees involved, obviously, in that type of transaction. So on the front side, the holders would get some rewards for fees and stuff for the transaction, right? Just just like with a mortgage, you get there's loan points like 1% or whatever it is. To be less than that, I'm sure, but there's going to be something to incentivize investors to get in from day one to say, oh, there is some return on this. But let's say it just flat lines and the value is 500,000. We would just take our 100,000 back. You get your 400,000 back, pay off your loan minus whatever equity you paid into it, and you
yeah,
walk
yeah.
away. If it doubles in value, sell it for 1 million, we get 200,000, you get 800,000, and same thing. It just works as
That's right.
as if they're a second buyer. If you went in and bought that house and your friend gave you $100,000,
Yeah,
same
yeah, yeah.
idea. Except
Brilliant.
we can use 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 individual investors to make up that $100,000. Which allows, and the great thing about it is it allows people in developing countries where let's say, the US dollar versus, some countries we 5 to 1, 6 to 1, some are even more than that. So for
Yeah,
them to get into real estate in you know Western, Europe, or that's like nearly unheard of. But with this, they could get in for
yeah,
a much smaller amount, and that rise, doubling their money, still doubling the money. So to them, it feels the same as it does for us.
yeah,
If we make 2,000, they make 200, that might actually be equivalent, in spending
yeah. Even
power.
more.
Yeah. So it allows people that couldn't traditionally get into real estate in many markets or any markets to be able to get in. And that's what we love about it, because it opens up for homeowners, for young home buyers, for people wanting to get into actual like real investing, big commercial or like apartment complex and stuff like that. It allows people to get into that for a much smaller entry fee.
Yeah,
And just on the investment side of investing in individual properties just as a passive investment, it allows a lot more people to do that. And that's why we love RWA. That's the only sector of crypto I really care about at this point. I
yeah, yeah,
love
yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
and
the whole
and you
space is.
consider, yeah, and
Yeah, go
there's
on.
380 trillion of real estate value out there, right? That's what they say the world's real estate, just in the US alone, is like $60 trillion. So, like,
Yeah,
for us to be successful, we only need a very small portion of that market to come on chain. So we're excited about a big chunk of the market because we feel like we're ahead in a lot of ways. There's only a handful of projects that are actually really undertaking this and actually working towards it, and so we feel blessed to have put you know put Home3
yeah.
into this market. Yeah,
Yeah, you're definitely ahead. Like, you're 100% ahead, especially like with all the knowledge you have as well. You're ahead more. You're further ahead than anyone I can think of right now, which is
I
always
appreciate
great.
that.
Yeah, because like I don't know how many trillions you said, but yeah, like once we get to like trillions, like I just don't understand. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
there's too
like your
many
brain shuts
numbers. It's
down,
like,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, no, definitely real estate is it's it's traditionally been the place to invest, right? And then bringing that on
Yeah,
chain, making it accessible to everyone, happen sooner or later, and you sort of lead in that, then it's just so exciting.
yeah, yeah. We agree.
Cool. Anyway, we're in like half an hour in, so I'm going to remind everyone that there's a $25 giveaway for 4 people for the best questions. I've seen there's actually a load of questions already being asked, so we'll get around to those later. And then later I'll select 4 people to win $25. So yeah, if you're watching, drop some questions. Um, all right, and then before we mentioned, or you mentioned, that real estate is not practically zero, but it's like practically zero compared to where all these degens are sending all their money, right? But how could someone take their profits from a shit coin basically and put them into HTS or Home3? What ways can we invest, or can someone invest in you with you guys?
Well, so we're gonna have the prop three. So we have the Home 3 app already. That's live. We have the web dashboard at home3suite .com/dashboard. That's our web app. We also have Apple and Google. We have an app on both of those stores, and what that is an AI driven search app. So that's essentially our window to the world. That's our welcome to the people that are not in blockchain. That's how we're going to pull them in to our world, right? By offering them all the different products that we're going to have that they don't need to know where we got the money from. They just know, hey, we're going to solve a problem for them, right? That's been my game from the beginning is we're going after the everyday person, right? We're going to bring them
Yes.
in. But for the crypto investor, and we're pushing for them too. What we're looking to do for them is, so we're gonna have prop three, and then we're gonna have loan three, and loan three is gonna be on-chain lending and yield. um, and so we're going to have a bunch of options, and we're still working through a lot of the details. A lot of this, I'm a real estate guy. I've owned quite a few businesses. I'm in politics. I've traded in blockchain. I'm not a blockchain expert per se. I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't know. You know, all of the, that's what I have a developer for, right? And I understand, have a very good understanding of it, but how exactly we're going to do some things is going to come at the moment, especially when you're talking about regulations too, where well, we got to work this in and then work the regulations in. So maybe the old way of doing it's not going to work. But the plan is prop three, loan three, and then eventually we're going to do title and escrow and stuff like that. And uh, so anyway, so if you're an investor who makes a whole bunch of money in crypto, we plan to have it so you can bring your ETH or your stable coins or whatever, you can lock them up and create yield for yourself and lend that on loan three to people that are looking for mortgages or looking for loans, a DeFi type of lending. Or on prop three, which is going to be our real centerpiece, you'll be able to put that fractionally into as many investments as you want in real estate. And we're going to have, I mean, we have developers we're in talks with, where we're going to have, they might have 1,000 units that they're either building or for sale at the moment, and you can invest your gains into that. You could also invest in building those developments. When we have vetted developers that are looking for funding, you can provide that funding. So there's a lot of benefits that come with that. There's transaction fees, there's yield on the transaction itself, there's rental yield later if you maintain some of the the ownership of that property. So there's going to be a lot of ways for big capital to come and park it in our ecosystem and either put it into different properties or offer lending, and even just holding HTS. There's going to be rewards from on-chain transactions, rental yield, stuff like that. So there's going to be a lot of ways that holders and investors are going to be profiting from the chain's transactions alone, let alone
Yeah.
whatever they choose to invest in directly. So our plan is we're going to be like a big, I hate to say it this way, I've been told maybe do or don't, but imagine like a pump fund for properties, but like not like pump fund, right? Like let's all
Okay. No,
face it.
yeah,
But
I get what you
but
mean. Yeah.
yeah, so essentially we're going to list properties on our platform that are vetted, that we know are good. It's not going to be anybody can just list the property and then you're putting all your capital towards it, ends up being a scam. Like we're going to be in control of this on the back end. We're vetting these properties. We're saying, yeah, this is a good legitimate deal.
Yeah.
When that happens, it goes up on the property on the platform, and you can
Mhm.
devote your HTS towards it as your vote and also your buy-in. So you could say, okay, yeah, I like this idea, this property in this location. I've done my research, sounds really good for me. Of course, we're gonna have a write-up of every property. What's the pros and cons? What's the market conditions? Market analysis, all that, which we already have the market analysis in our app. I don't know if you noticed that, but if you look for a property, it'll give you a market analysis about monthly and weekly rents and cap rates. If you're familiar with that, that's a commercial real estate term, but it has to do with how much money you have in the property versus how much it's yielding in profit, things like that. So we already have those market analysis. So we're going to utilize that in our platform to show you all the details about that property, and then you say, oh, okay, this is the one for me. I'm going to put $10,000 worth of HTS into this property. Well, then when that hits what we call, would we colloquially know as like bonding, when it gets to the point where that's a viable property, then all of that is taken, and the either purchase or investment in that property is executed. And then that's when we get all the, the NFTs are drawn, are brought, are created, the on-chain
Okay.
transactions all happen. So essentially they'll be able to come and be like a smorgasbord of properties and say, oh, I like that one, that's cool. What's the benefits I get with this? Oh, if I invest this much into this one, I can actually use it for the weekend. Because we believe also that there's going to be a lifestyle aspect to this, where you say, oh, well, I don't have enough to buy a vacation property, but you can sort of create your own timeshare if you think about it like that. Like if you have a property in, on a tropical island, and you always wanted to vacation there, but those are $1 million homes. But if you put 50,000 into this home, you can use it for 2 weeks of the year. A lot of people would do that too. You get the value of
Yeah.
the, so it's sort of like individual timeshares can be created. There's so many options and so many opportunities that it presents, that personally I can't see the vision that we have for this platform. I can't see this, if we um or I should say, when we execute this, uh, I can't see that anybody's going to want to put their money in a different type of place when it comes to real estate. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
just incredible.
Yeah.
So at least
Yeah.
that's how I see it. Of course, the future's always to be told, but the way that we're moving, we're just, we're constantly moving one step, one foot in front of the other, regardless of market conditions. We're building this,
That's
and
it.
it's, join with us and help us get there, or come back later, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
you
Yeah.
know
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, because what you said about sort of sharing, I know they do that with planes, and maybe with boats as well.
Yeah.
Like if someone has like a private plane, to fly around every now and then, I think
Hmm.
they own it, among like five or
Yeah.
six owners. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So prop free is more or less like choosing the properties that you like, doing your own research and stuff like that, and then loan free would be just d- dumping the money into like a
Lending.
pool, and then that gets
Yeah,
loan
essentially.
lended
So
out.
Lend 3 would essentially become a home lender, right?
Yeah.
And it through a variety of things, because we could still offer traditional mortgages as mortgage broker, right? So we could still be a rocket mortgage when it comes down to it, but this is going to be part of the ecosystem. So something a lot of people don't, I think, got to realize, right now we're a team of just a few people, right? We're building this, we have the plans, we're putting the partnerships in play. When this all comes to pass, we're probably going to have, hundreds, if not thousands, of employees across the world that are operating this. So when it comes to, for instance, like Loan 3, the way I see that is that's going to be a big, that's going to be a big on-chain and, traditional fi loan broker that is putting these transactions together that are maybe not traditional, right? I mean, anything with blockchain is not traditional, right? So we're going to be looking at every transaction, saying how can we make this work and still keep investors safe, and still keep everyone who's putting money into it safe, but also provide a solution here so that this person or these people can get the opportunity that they're trying to get. And that, a lot of that with me comes from, I did tradition, I did residential and I did commercial mortgages, but I was never super, I didn't really have, so in commercial real estate with the transactions, because I'm a problem solver, I like to like take on the hardest problem I could find, right? So one of the ones I always go back to is I had somebody contact me about a riverboat casino in Louisiana, and they were trying to finance like 300 million for it. And um so I got into the process, and there was some issues, and to be honest, I was fairly new and I was like, I don't know if I could do it. But I had a lot of contacts and resources already. So I was confident I could find people to at least look at it. So put all this work into it, and then Hurricane Katrina hit and all that work went out the
Oh,
window. So like that's
no.
basically was like my experience in commercial mortgages was I was trying to take on the hardest problems. So obviously I've learned from that. I'm not taking on the biggest, but we're going one step at a time. But
Yeah.
just to give you an idea, is me personally, I like to find these solutions. So when Home 3 is moving through, we're gonna every problem that comes along, we're gonna try to solve, and every unique situation that comes from an investor or a property buyer or a property seller, even, we're gonna try to address that in a unique way if we can, utilizing blockchain, and that's why we're so passionate about this because as it is, real estate by itself, there's not a lot of solutions to the problems that there is in real estate right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Blockchain is the solution, right? So blockchain provides us so many solutions that to me, I feel like it's a sandbox. I can kind of build any solution that's needed for any situation in real estate. And that's why I really feel like we're going to be really successful. And that comes from my experiences trying to put together these weird commercial deals and always trying to help people with the residential mortgages that look like a long shot. I was very successful with those a lot of times because I just take on the problem. So, bring your problem children to me and I'll work it out.
You're
So,
you're the man for them. Brilliant.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, I think so.
And one last question on this investing stuff, and then we'll probably answer some community questions.
Sure.
So
And
we're
if I
meant.
talk too much, slow me down because I will.
Oh no, it's
Don't
fine. Oh, it's
worry.
brilliant. The more you talk is the better because yeah, you know everything, and I love learning as well. So I'm just listening and learning.
Same. Yeah.
So okay, so then if we invest money into the platform again, either one or the other, is in HTS token, in your token, or in USDT or USDC, and then would that stay in HTS over time? So potentially earning yield on your app plus any
Yeah.
potential
So
gains
HTS
in.
plans to have a little bit of ownership in every transaction as much as possible, especially if they're so one of the mechanisms we're going to have is the real estate investment trust. It hasn't been formed yet, but that's one of the one of the plans we have. And the real estate investment trust is that you could just put your HTS directly into our real estate investment trust, and then you can earn from that trust based on all the properties that HTS owns. And HTS would own a piece of all of that. And I feel like essentially what we're going to do is all HTS holders are going to benefit in some way from just about everything that happens on our platform, even if it's small. But if you think about the amount of money in these transactions and the amount of transactions that we can conduct on a regular basis, even if it's just tokenizing a property, just a homeowner says, you know what, I want to tokenize my property because when I want to take out money on it later, I just want to be able to issue it in shares. I don't want to have to go to a bank, whatever the case is. Just those
Mhm.
transactions will generate fees, and all those fees will be shared with the token because HTS will be the integral token that that makes all of those happen, right? Like HTS, if it's converted to say create an NFT to another chain, it still started with HTS, right? So HTS is gonna be rewarded for that, that creation of that NFT, the management, things like that. There's a lot of ways that HTS holders are going to benefit, and essentially because it's going to be the center of all of the ecosystems, whether it's Loan 3, Home 3 itself. Home 3 is not really on chain, but it will integrate with the other platforms. Prop 3, everything on Prop 3 is going to involve HTS. So all of those transactions
Brilliant.
are going to generate fees that are going to go back as rewards to the holders. And I know you were going to ask about staking, and that will be something once we're generating revenue, then staking will be a viable option. But staking in the moment is just a kind of a liquidity draw, right? But
Yes.
when we start generating revenue with the platforms, then staking will actually really help us because it'll allow us to lend or create, be more liberal with our transactions than if we were, running with a smaller amount of basically guaranteed liquidity, right?
Yeah. 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 No, that's it. Brilliant. Yeah, because that's what staking is all about. It's helping the ecosystem and
Yeah.
getting rewarded. So yeah, brilliant. But yeah, so yeah, HTS definitely worth holding at least for now. If
I
before you get
believe
the
so. Yeah.
Home 3 and Prop 3 guide, I'm not sure how much we can say about that, about any of that anyway.
Well, I mean, prop three,
Um,
it's, we gotta, obviously we gotta keep some things close to the chest so that we don't, get
yeah,
front run, because we are a small team and we're just moving forward slowly. But we believe that that's going to change here soon. We're in talks with different partners, and we're working on getting funding and everything. So we would drastically speed up, all of
yeah,
that development. But it's safe to say Prop 3 is going to be pretty cool. It's going to be essentially like you log in, you're going to see all these properties that you can invest in. Just click the button, devote however many HTS to it. It's going to connect to your wallet. It's going to be very, a very nice platform to use, I think.
yeah,
And also, what we mentioned too in one of our recent tweets is if you're on Prop 3 or you're in Home 3, say you find a property on Home 3 on the app, you search, use our AI, you're like, you know what, I want to find an Airbnb by the ocean with 4 bedrooms. You can do that with our AI. You don't When you use our search app, you don't have to search, put in the bedrooms. You can just tell our AI, I want a 4 bedroom home in a resort area by the beach, that's good for Airbnb. Can you give me some suggestions? I want it to be safe, have good schools because I may use it, in the off
mm,
season, whatever the case. And it will find these properties for you and curate, put them in front of you. And let's say you find one, you're like, oh man, I like this property, but I don't know if I can get it myself. Let me throw it on Prop 3 and see if I could crowdfund half of it, and then we can get this property. And then now you crowdfund half, and then now it's Airbnb that's creating rental yield as well as appreciation over time, right?
yeah,
That's a phenomenal investment that,
yeah.
I look at properties like that all the time, 1, 2, $3 million. I'm like, I don't have that money. But if I did, I know that I could Airbnb this thing for $1,000 a night most of the year. And there's a wicked amount of profit there. So we're going to be able to make that, available to a
Happen.
lot of people. And but the seamless integration between Home 3 and Prop 3 is going to be really big because it's going to go back and forth. If you're in Prop 3 and you want to sell, now we want to liquidate this property, we want to sell it, we can list it right into Home 3, right? And vice
Hmm.
versa. Take a property from Home 3 and put it up for offer in Prop 3. And that back and forth is going to be how our whole ecosystem works. And same with Loan 3, it's all going to work in with each other so that it just kind of guides you through what are you trying to do, and then we're going to guide you on how you can do it. And our AI capabilities, we're going to be improving to the point where you can make negotiations on homes right with the AI and allow the AI to help you with your negotiations on the price of a property, or the terms or the stipulations that you want to give for that property purchase. And then also draft a contract purchase agreement for you and submit that to the realtor and start those negotiations. And what that also allows is that when we're set up to be, a real estate broker, or we have a lot of real estate broker partners, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to be the selling agent or the buyer's agent. So our platform can get commissions for that sale
Hmm.
as well. So there's an incredible amount of money to be made in this platform when it goes
Yeah,
live. Right now we're just in that phase where we're just building it. It's like we got the Home 3, that's the first part. Now Prop 3 is coming. And then once we light that up and those transactions start happening, it's just I just can't see it, not exploding, because there's going to be an incredible link, between the two. And then, man, when you add the lending, those three together, forget it. You one-stop shop with blockchain.
yeah.
I feel like we're going to
Globally,
be
hopefully.
unstoppable.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, yeah, you got me really excited about it all now. And it's a shame because I was going to ask about AI and ask about staking. I've got loads of questions prepared, so I want to answer some community questions. So you have to jump back on in like a
Sure.
couple months, in like 3 months or whatever. And you can update us, or you
Okay.
can
Yeah,
ask me
hey,
some
I'll come
more
on
of
as
that.
often as you want.
Brilliant. Because
I just need
you know,
enough notice so I could send my kids out of the house so they're making noise.
all right. Because you just mentioned about, because again, I sort of fantasize, right, by looking at these amazing houses and thinking, oh, if I could get this, and it's a great
Yeah.
location, I guess, like a sort of upcoming location. So if I spotted an opportunity, and of course I don't have the money for it, how like how can I propose it to you and be approved? Can anyone be approved, or is that like a? I know
Well,
you
yeah,
said there's
well,
a
we're
written
gonna
process.
we're gonna do the research on it and to see, to make sure it's a real house and a real listing, because
Yeah,
obviously, in the
yeah.
U.S. it's very regulated. So everything on Home3 app right now is a verified MLS listing that a realtor uploaded. So any property in the U.S. that comes up on Home3, if you were to take that, put it in the prop 3, we would already know that that's a legitimate house for sale. But still, you still have title and escrow. There's still a lot of process to go through. So let's say you find a listing, you say, "Oh, I found a house in Miami, it's condo or whatever, it's amazing, it's gonna be great for Airbnb. I can't afford the whole thing, but I can put a little bit of money in. But let's see if we can get this by crowdfunding it, and we throw it on prop 3, and then prop 3 we fund it. What we're going to do at that point is we're going to take that and we're going to proceed with the transaction, but through all of the mechanisms that make a real estate transaction safe. Country by country it's different, but in the US I can tell you how it works is, you put in the offer to the realtor, and the realtor takes it to the owner accepts or counters. You counter the counter, whatever the case is, and then you say, okay, cool, we're going to buy this. And then now you go through title search and escrow. You go through property inspections, you go through appraisal, all that stuff to make sure that you're getting a legitimate property that is vetted, that's free of any liens or encumbrances from prior
Mhm.
owners or anything like any construction liens, things like that. Like right now, there's a thing in Southern Florida where they had all of these new assessments come to the HOAs there, right? And these apartment. You remember that apartment that collapsed in Miami years ago, a few years ago? It was on
I
the
don't
beach.
know.
So there was a big apartment complex that had issues with flooding in the basement for years. It was right on the beach, and it cracked the foundation, and there was a bunch of they were saying, "Oh, this needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed." They never fixed it. The whole building almost ended up collapsing, killing like I think it was like
Wow,
60 or 100 people. It was very
wow.
sad. It was a lot of
Yeah.
people. Maybe it was not that many. It was a lot of people. The whole building came down like in a flash.
One.
After that, Florida went and hit all of those condos on the beaches and said, you have to do this. They added all these safety features and reinforcements that they have to now add to their buildings. So
Mhm.
all of those condos got hit with like 100,000 or $150,000 in these new assessments that they have to pay the HOA. So if we were, say, you found one of those and we funded it through Prop 3 and then we proceeded with the transaction, we would be doing all the traditional steps to make a transaction happen, and then we digitize it. But during that, we would find that new assessment on the property and say, oh,
Yeah.
this is not good because we're going to get this property and then we're going to owe $150,000 assessment. So we're going to close that deal, refund all the HTS to everybody, and allow them to put it into a different property. Likewise, another
Mm.
thing I want to touch on with Prop 3 is if you put your money into a property that doesn't reach bonding, right?
Yeah.
After a certain amount of time, we're going to release that back to you. And I think also we would work that in as a form of staking. Well, like if you put your HTS into a property and it falls off after 10 days, you'll still get 10 days of like staking rewards, I think. We'd have to figure out how to do that, but
Okay.
I think that'd be a pretty cool feature, because you're putting your HTS in there, you're holding it, which is to advance a transaction. So why not get some rewards there if it doesn't
Yeah.
actually pan out? So it's a win-win proposition. Whether it works out or not, you end up in a better situation. So we're kind of thinking of all of these different things. But yeah, so it would be our transactions are going to be very safe, vetted. We're going to have real estate professionals and real mortgage professionals, title, escrow, all that stuff is going to be done wherever we are. If we're in a developing country that has less records, we're going to dig in and make sure those records are correct and that we're purchasing a property that is what it is, right? So you're going to have that protection with us.
Brilliant. Yeah. It'll be growing mega fast soon. I can see it. Yeah. It'll be global for sure.
Yeah, well, we
Brilliant.
hope.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just each individual country. We have so many countries, and then even in some of those countries, like you're in Spain, right?
Mhm.
Recently, I don't know if you heard about it, but basically you can't Airbnb in Spain now. There was a
Yeah, there's
loss. Yeah, they
yeah,
took 60,000 Airbnbs off of the market, and we were
yeah,
actually last year. I'm glad we didn't pull the trigger before that was really filed. We were looking to possibly pick up a property on La Côte de Sol. I think is how you say it.
Cos-
The Côte del
Costa del
Sol, is
Sol,
it?
Costa del
Yeah,
Sol, yeah.
beautiful, beautiful area.
Oh
I
yeah,
was excited for that, but it didn't work out. We actually ended up putting, that money towards development, but we still on our radar. But now we got to wait for Spain to come up with something to work with Airbnb or VRBO or whatever, so that we could possibly get properties that can create rental yield. Because realistically, long term tenants are more of a hassle than the short term tenants, right? So we'd like
yes,
to
yeah,
focus on more, if we're going to do rental yield type of properties, more on ones that are going to be short term, a few days to a few weeks or a month. And we also have in the back of our heads to possibly have a platform that also curates that from our all our stuff, and maybe other RWA projects can put their properties into that. But we'll see. That's a longer term thing. But we can always create partnerships for things like that too, if somebody else comes up with a Airbnb for blockchain, right? So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think here the problem is the government, of course. Well, housing is a problem here as well, and then people have houses and they're not renting them because it's more
yeah,
profitable but on Airbnb, and that's
yeah.
where
Well, that's also something
our
we can
government.
address too. And it's things like that present a solution for a problem, right?
Yeah.
So Spain's having a problem with housing. Well, what can we do? We can help. We can crowdfund developments to build
Hmm.
lower cost housing, so the average person can rent or buy cheaper. We
Yeah.
can make it easier for people to buy in Spain. And then maybe with that, Spain will say, okay, now we can reopen the short term rental market because we don't have this problem anymore. That's the type of solutions we're trying to bring to the world. And why we also see that we'll be able to work with governments and stuff long term to actually solve problems and crises or crises in real estate, right? Because we're in a new paradigm is what we see, and we're just early. We're just here early.
Well, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Cool. Anyway, we'll move on to a community question or two. 'Cause I'm not sure we have time for four of them. If you're here and you weren't here before, giving away $100 worth of HTS for four
I like
people, so
this.
$25.
I
Sorry.
like this one question. I think it mirrors one that you asked. We may have already talked about it a little bit, but he says,
Okay.
"What's Home 3's strategy to attract non-crypto audience into their ecosystem?"
Said that because I think I can show it on the
Uh,
screen. Oh,
Bitmac
hang on.
or Bimac?
Right, Mag. Let me see if I can find him or her.
He
Uh,
1403. He sent it just a couple
oh, that
minutes
helps.
ago.
What time? What time was it sent?
1403 my time. So it's two
Oh,
minutes ago.
14:03. Oh, two
So two
minutes ago.
minutes
Okay.
ago. Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Can I show it on screen? Oh,
Sure.
oh,
There
wow,
you
this is
go.
cool.
That's pretty cool. I
Okay.
like
Yeah,
that.
it's cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, I think we touched on this before, but the Home 3 app is how we're bringing non-crypto audiences in. Essentially, what we did is we created an AI version of a home search, property search platform, such as Realtor.com here in the U.S. or Homes.com, where you can go and you put in an address or a city, and it'll bring up homes. What we did is we added AI to that, and now you can say, one of the things that I said I wanted to use was I want a property with a waterfall and a stream on it, right? So I said that I'll be happy with the AI when it can find me a property with a waterfall and a stream, and it has done that, right? So I'm happy with it, but we're still working on it. But it's very good. So that AI capability takes away hours and hours for a typical home buyer to look to find a home. For years, me and my wife, we would use Realtor.com. We just share listings with each other, right? But we're always searching. We're like, okay, let's search for a, you know, we want to, let's see if there's a farmhouse style house, but you got to look through 20, 30, 40 different listings to find like one farmhouse styled home. You could tell the AI, I want a farmhouse styled home. It's going to find that without you having to go through those 40. So what we're doing is we're offering solutions to the regular everyday problems for everyday people. And then we're providing solutions that are AI and blockchain based, but they don't really have to know that it's blockchain based. So we're not necessarily saying, hey, come into the blockchain world. We're saying, hey, we can offer you to get this property, even though you might not be able to fully afford it or get approved for a loan for it. We have a program for that. They don't need to know that we're crowdfunding, a second buyer on the home. They just need to know where they stand in the end. It's like same thing if you go
Yeah.
to a bank and you take out a loan, all they do is hit the enter button and it creates money and they give you money that they never even had in the first place, right? It's called a fractional it's called fractional I forget what's called, but it's
Yeah.
basically, they have if you put $1 into a bank, they can lend seven. So what do? They create $6 on that one.
Okay.
So when you get a loan at a bank, they're just creating this money, but you got to pay it back. You don't know how they're creating that money. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bridge the real world with blockchain without really them having to know that that's what happens. But if they want to know, the information's there for them to learn and come into our world so they can invest in and do it on the backside on the blockchain and crypto side directly where they can invest. But if they're just looking for a home, we're going to provide that solution. We're going to complete that transaction. We're going to give them a pretty cool picture of their house that represents their house and things like that. And they're just like, wow, this is pretty cool, with no idea where it's coming. So that's the idea. You gotta blur the lines. We're not lying. I don't mean that.
Yes.
We got to blur the lines of what's going on here, because the average person, they're too busy to know what the blockchain is doing to make their
Yeah.
transaction happen, nor do they care. So that's how we're going to bring all that liquidity here. Additionally, just by also offering the like the equity buys, also the, hey, invest in real estate for $100. Oh, how do I do that? Well, just come, we'll show you. And they come to our site and we're like, yeah, you want to invest in this property for $100? Cool. On the back end, we're going to convert that to blockchain, the crypto, so it can buy it, but they just put their fiat in. That's the whole idea, is to make it so that the real world doesn't have to make a wallet and do all these extra steps to do something that they already do, because they won't do it. They'll just stay with the original way of doing things because it's too much hassle to learn this stuff. So we're going to make it easier for that all to happen so that they don't have to learn it. We can still make it happen. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Definitely the way I think to onboard,
Yeah.
traditional investors. Because if they're bombarded with all this crypto stuff and things they might not even trust, it's like, yeah. But if we're making it easy and making it seem as if crypto is not behind it all, then you know they'll just go ahead with it, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even if they know it's blockchain, I still think they'll move forward as long as they don't have to do all of the steps
Yeah.
involved, like create a wallet and then go to a swap, or go to DeFi, or you got to go to an exchange and you got to create a username and account, and then you got to remember it and take your wallet phrase and you know stick
Yeah.
it under the floor somewhere,
Some,
like
have some
like
Ethereum for gas fees. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or
Is that-
put it on a cold wallet and stick it in a safe somewhere. People don't
yeah.
want to do that. That's the biggest thing, and I think across the board, that's the biggest reason why the average person isn't adopting crypto. Everyone here in crypto is an early adopter. I think just by
Yes.
nature, everyone, like, we're just the people that, everyone knows Amazon now, but we were using Amazon in 2003, or when it first came out. That's the type of people that are in blockchain, for the not entirely, for the most. You got a lot of people that came in for the cats with the hat, uh but generally, we're early adopters. So
Hundred
we
percent.
need to find a way. Look, Amazon figured out how to make, like, you don't know how that all you know when you buy something on Amazon is you click that button and pay for it, it's in your door 2 days later. That's all you know,
Yeah,
right? That's how we're
yeah,
gonna operate. That's how we're gonna change the paradigm with blockchain, is because you don't need to know. You just know that, hey, I own a house, you know?
yeah.
I own a piece of a vacation property and I can go use it sometimes. How? Well, I don't know. This is like this new thing.
Yeah, they're just up and they tell their friend, and their friend's like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, I want a
Oh,
house as well." Like, oh
once
yeah,
that
tell
starts happening.
AI.
Yeah, and also let me touch on something else. You've probably all heard of rent to own, right? And this actually is two things. So, so rent to own is something that we're going to employ in the process too, because essentially, if you crowdfund a property, that person moves in and they pay you. You can have them pay a rent instead of getting a mortgage, and then they can just on chain. The biggest problem with rent to own is, the accounting and stuff like that. And there's a lot of scams out there too. But if you're a trusted platform and you can offer this on chain, they can know, hey, I made this payment, so I get X amount of equity or X amount towards this home
Oh, okay,
every
okay.
month. And that also leads into also Sharia compliant transactions as well, which we've gotten a lot of questions about, which I think you were going to ask me about expanding into the MENA region, right?
Yeah.
The Sharia compliance sort of operates like rent to own, because the bank technically owns the property, and they essentially, if somebody's going to buy it, they're paying for the property and they're paying a rent on top of that to kind of use the property. So we're going to be employing that too, and our platform is going to have Sharia compliant on the ones that operate like that in those regions too. So we're going to be open to everybody, but we're also gonna work with different, different cultures and stuff to make
Yeah.
sure that they have investments that they can do, because under Sharia law, I guess you can't they can't invest in
Interest.
a typical transaction that we would do
Yeah.
in the West, right? So, and so because of that too, we're going to do the rent to own, which will be very similar, but is also a very big tool to help people afford a home, especially when they're paying 3,000 a month rent, right? And a $2,000 a month mortgage would be better. You can kind of cut it up in the middle and say, okay, $2,500 a month we put in this house, and then we're going to apply X amount towards it each month until you take
Yeah.
control of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, even if they're paying 3,000 a month and they're ticking off like 2,000 in ownership, right? It's still
hmm
better than zero, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly, exactly. So I envision a world where even when you're renting, you're still moving forward in life. Because right now, if you're renting, and we went through it, me and my wife went through it for quite a few years. I got very sick in 2015, so we had to rent for a while
mhm.
before we bought our current house, and it just felt like it felt like we were on a treadmill that just never stopped, it was just pay the rent, pay the rent, there was no benefit
Yeah,
to it other than, hey, I have a roof over my head.
yeah,
Then we buy our home and our home has doubled in value in 5 years. So
yeah.
big
Oh, in
difference,
5 years,
right?
yeah, I got mine
Yeah.
just before COVID as well, and like it's probably
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
doubled.
Well,
So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so COVID was an interesting time because so many people were fleeing the cities and working remotely that they came
oh
out to
yeah,
kind of where I live. I live closer to the ocean, so they were like, "I want to live by the ocean." So like pushed all the so it's a positive for those who are already in the market that owned, but negative for people that are trying to buy now,
yeah.
which is a
That's
problem, and that's what happened. So
uh,
now, before, where a family could afford a home here, maybe they're just getting into the union, they're an apprentice, they know they're going to make 30, $40 an hour in a couple years, but they're making 20, 25 now, but they could afford a mortgage 5 years ago. They can't now. So
mhm,
it's things like that that we want to solve, that we want to help. I know that a guy that goes into the union is going to be good for the money, you know, because those jobs are very stable. The electricians union, the elevator constructions union, sheet metal union, things like that. Those guys work and they make a lot of money. And so I know that they're gonna. But if you go to a traditional bank, they're like, well, you make $22 an hour right now. How are you gonna pay this back? They don't look at what they're gonna make in 3 years
yeah,
when they finish their apprenticeship. So I think with blockchain, we're able to be more open and uh, more liberal to an extent with the ability to get transactions done, whether it's by, you can do some hybrid. We could do a hybrid where, okay, maybe it's not a loan, it's a a crowdfunded buy that turns into a loan when they get out of their apprenticeship, something like that. And then that's an exit strategy for those who are doing the initial crowdfunding. Oh, okay, 3 years I'm going to be looking at getting out of this because it's going to convert to a loan and buy me out. There's literally an infinite amount of possibilities, I think, that we can put together. And that's what I love to do. So
Yes, really exciting. And well, sort of touching on that, I found another question that I think's a good one. And there's a little bit to it, but what I liked about is what you're most excited about. We'll leave it at that. So, what are you most excited about Home3 or the whole ecosystem?
hmm, there's a lot. It's so much. So to pick one, Uh, I would say I would say I'm most excited. I mean, it goes back to the beginning. I'm most excited about solving problems that help people's lives. That's what I'm most excited about HTS and its use case for. That's essentially, long and short, is the HTS use case is solving problems that will make people's lives better. That also on the back end will also be very lucrative and I think profitable for people involved. So I'm excited that, to me, this is a win-win-win type of situation. Those are the type of things that I've always strived to be in my life. Is if I'm selling a product, if I'm representing a product, to me, it has to be a win-win-win. It has to be a win for all sides. That doesn't mean everybody walks away a rock star, but it means everybody improves their lives, improves their financial situation, improves their happiness. And that's what I'm most excited about. Because really, if I had to pick one feature, I think I couldn't really pick one feature because all of them are going to work together to solve these problems, and every situation is going to be unique. I don't know that we can make a smart contract for every situation, to be honest with you. So this is still going to be a uh, a manpower heavy operation, but it's just going to be, HTS is going to be the mechanism by which all those transactions are finalized or created in the end. But it's just solving problems and helping people, and that's what HTS is about. So that's what it is. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's what I like as well. Solving problems and helping people. Brilliant. Anyway, so I think we'll wrap it up here. It's been amazing. Yeah, I have so many questions which
We'll
I
hit them
can't
next
answer now.
time. We'll hit them
And
next time.
yeah, definitely. And I just know, speaking about real estate, I love it all as well. So yeah, I had other
I
questions that
know. It's
I
the thing
resisted.
is, the thing is, I laugh a lot to myself because I'm like, real estate's very exciting, but it's not like, cat in a mask or cat with hat, exciting because it's like, oh, there's this. So it's funny in blockchain how it's like all this like excitement goes to this like cartoon character, but then you got like
Yeah.
real money and wealth over here, and people are like, well, that's real estate. It's kind of
Yeah,
dry
like
and
there's
boring.
like
But
trillion.
when you
Yeah,
start seeing what you can do with real estate, you get really excited because real estate has created the most wealthy individuals in the entire world, I believe. It is the number one way for the average person to uh, to to move up in society, no matter where they start. If you get into real estate, and that's what's so great about this, because now we can bring that entry barrier to a lot more people who can now progress their lives. And I think that's amazing, right? It's not available anywhere else other than blockchain and RWA. This is the only place it's happening where you can put 100 or 500 or $1,000 into real estate, and you can start your journey in real estate with just that, and you can start building that long-term generational wealth, because real estate is one of the only ways to build generational wealth, and that should be available to everybody. Not everybody's going to do it, right? But everybody that finds it and wants to do it should be able to do it, and that's our belief here, and that's what we're doing.
brilliant,
So
brilliant, perfect. Brilliant.
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we'll wrap it up here this time for real. And yeah,
Okay.
so thanks everyone for listening. We've got two winners that I took note of here. BIMAC or
So,
BMAC and Stephen Junior King.
so I
I'll
guess we're
choose the
doing
other
50 each.
two.
Yeah. Or not.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll go 50 each. Go on. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll do.
Next time we
We'll do
do it,
other.
we'll double it and we'll do 4 for sure that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
So
about
yeah,
that?
thanks for everyone for listening. Congratulations to those two. I'll reach out through X in a bit. Sean, thanks for joining, mate. It's been amazing.
Of
Yeah,
course.
so
Thank
many
you for having
questions,
us.
and I'm
And
really excited about the project. And yeah, just keep going, mate. It's looking really, really good.
awesome. Thank you. And check us out, home3suite.com, HOME3, the number, suite.com. If you put a / dashboard on there, you'll get our web app. You can also find our app on the Apple and Google Store. Apple, we're still working on Europe. So if you're in Europe, use our web app, but you can search for properties in the US right now. That's it. But and then also hit us, you can find us on Telegram at / join home3, and on X we're home3 suite, SUITE. So we hope to see you there. Come join our group and ask us any questions. If you had a question here that we didn't answer, we'll answer it in the Telegram. We're always in there, and we're excited to talk with new members.
Brilliant.
Thanks a
Yeah,
lot, Reese. We
that's it.
really appreciate
That's
it.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.